Hey, folks, welcome back to another episode of the Agency Freedom Podcast. We help insurance professionals move from captivity to freedom. Those of you that are watching on YouTube, I'm going to say hi and point at the camera. Those of you that are listening in podcast land, hope you enjoy the ride. In this episode, we are going to be playing by the beat of a different drum, if you will. My guest is Mr. Taylor Garcia from Jackson & Jackson.
That's
Insurance
correct.
in the Los Angeles area. Taylor, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, James. Really do appreciate
You
being
know,
on.
I know I'm talking to someone who gets the content game when I look across the computer screen and I see another beautiful, shiny Shure SM7B microphone on a boom arm, the same boom arm that I currently have sitting right there. Good old Rode PSA. I was like, all right, this guy knows what's going on. You crush the content game. Your content is buttery smooth. I love your style, your colors, your editing, the motion graphics. Like, your content game is what got me paying close attention. When you and I met for the first time in person in Austin last year, the first thing I said was, bro, I'm so glad to finally meet you. I love your content. And you're like, really? I love your content. I was like, step bros in here. Did we just become best friends? Yes. And it was like, man, out of this world, man. If you guys aren't following Taylor Garcia, you really should. You should be borrowing his good ideas. He's way ahead of you and I both when it comes to short form content. So good luck catching him, but feel free to borrow the ideas and take what you like. Taylor's game is just light speed. I'm going to get into that. Before we do that, I always like to start these conversations with bio, with background. You can take this any direction you want, man. Give us your backstory, how you got to this chapter of your life, how you found insurance, whatever you want to share with us about the Taylor Garcia story.
Yeah, thanks, man. Let me start by saying thank you. I really do appreciate it. When I met you in Austin, I agreed, man. I've been listening to your stuff and watching you, so it was really a pleasure to meet you and appreciate all the kind words. So a little bit about me. I'm not your traditional agent. I grew up a musician. I've been a musician since I was a kid. I've been playing drums since I was 8 or 9 years old. So, all I really knew in life was music, and that's all I really ever wanted to do. Born and raised in the town I'm in now, Glendora, California. We're in SoCal, but growing up, it was just my reason I got into music was my sister's boyfriend at the time played music, and nobody in my family has musical talent. It was kind of a weird thing. It was just my sister happened to have friends that were musicians. So I was kind of just around it. We have a pretty big age gap. So, I was looking at all these older guys playing in bands and stuff, and I just wanted to do it. And my parents were like, I don't think you have, we don't have music in our family. Like, a few people did, but I was like, I don't care. So there I was. They got me a drum set at 8, 9 years old. I sat in my garage for 6-7 hours a day, summer break, after school, whatever it was, and I just taught myself, and I was just determined to learn it. And it was horrible for years, and you could ask my family. It was brutal. They all asked me to kind of stop for once in a while. They're like, I don't know if this is for you. But over the years, I was just doing it. And then I got into school, and I was in drumline. And then fast forward a little bit, graduated high school, was 18. I toured right out of high school. I joined this group that I never met in my life. It was 6 guys. We got in a van and we drove from here to New York and back. And I filled in for a group, and that just kind of set it off. And so it was like I got the feel for what it was like to be in a band. I mean, I wasn't making much money, but that's what I wanted to do for a living. And so I never was really in one specific band. I kind of just bounced around, filled in where I needed to. And I went on tours, joined a few pretty successful bands, some that were just no names, but that's what I did. And then I met my wife. We were playing a show locally here. She came and attended. Funny enough, her parents and my parents knew each other. So my parents invited her parents, like, hey, Taylor's playing a show locally. Do you want to come out? We're going to go. And then they invited my wife, and that was how we first met. And it was just a hit ever since that night. And so
love it.
Yeah, it was a quick, we got together. It was very like, we just knew from the get-go. It was like, hey, this is working. And so we ended up kind of doing things a little backwards. We got pregnant with our first son, and then we got married. And then right as we got pregnant, it was like, I had the whole father-in-law talk of like, what is your plan with my daughter? Do you have a job lined up? Where are you going to go with this? Right? Are you planning to do music forever? Because at that time I was traveling quite a bit, and my wife was pregnant. She didn't want to be home alone. And, you know, and he kind of sat me down and was like, what are you thinking? Like, I know you want to do this for a living, but at the time I wasn't making much money. And I was like, yeah, my wife's kind of paying for my lifestyle. Or fiance.
That doesn't go over too well with father-in-laws, does it?
No, not necessarily. One that was a successful businessman, you know, he was like, my daughter's dating a tattoo drummer that doesn't make any money. And now she's pregnant. They're getting married. Okay. So, but honestly,
I'm feeling my chest get tight as I think about my own daughter who is 4 years old.
I know.
It's like, oh gosh, that must have been rough.
It would, yeah. The only thing I would say is I'm pretty, on the outside, if you saw me, you'd be like, wow, this guy's probably like a hard ass or something, excuse my language. But like, I'm pretty a nice guy. So thankfully there, like my father and I got along very well. And they were great about the whole thing. Like they supported me, but he was just kind of like, what is your plan?
He was doing the dad thing like he's supposed to. Yeah,
absolutely. Now having 2 kids myself, I would absolutely have that talk as well. So totally
100%. Yeah.
But yeah, so he kind of threw out insurance, right? And he was like, he had a family agency. So he has an agency. He kind of, my wife was working there at the time, and he was like, you can come here, you could start selling insurance, you can make a good living. And I was like, this is the last thing I'm going to do. Like, I'm sorry. Like, with
if
all
there
due respect,
is a more opposite career path from rock star drummer to insurance agent, I don't know if there could be 2 more diametrically opposed careers.
I know. And that's what I thought. And I was like, I can't sit in an office all day. Like, there's just no way. Like, I'm used to like, and so, but at the same time in my head, I knew I needed something to provide for my family. And I wasn't going to be naive by saying I'm going to be this rock star and my family has to support it. Like, I knew that was kind of a very slim chance that was going to happen. And so I needed to figure something out. So I got into the agency. I agreed. I started out unlicensed work, just servicing, filing, answering phones. And in that time process, I was getting licensed. Well, I failed the license test 3 times, and I'll say that. And after the 3rd time, I was like, I'm done. Like, this is a sign saying this isn't for me. And my father-in-law was like, just try one last time. Like, let's study a little bit, one last time, give it a shot. And I passed, of course. And then,
that's when the music changes in the story. The scene change, music pivots. Just that like motivational tone shift. All right, cool. You passed. Now what?
Yeah, right. So then right as my son was born, drums went away. They collected dust, and now I'm an insurance agent. And so I didn't play drums for 5 years. And I just dove into insurance. And oddly enough, early on, I got in with, meeting peers in the communities and Facebook and going to some conferences, and it really kind of helped me propel of doing it, meeting, I met like Ryan Hanley early on and a few other names. And it was just like, it really pushed me like, oh, there's other young people in the industry. It's not just the old guys that I work with or the people that I saw online. Yep. And it really helped. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I got into it. And it was really just meeting my wife, and then her family had the agency, and they brought me in and just said, here, start selling insurance. And they were the traditional old, here's a desk, here's a phone, good luck. And I was like,
Ugh.
like really, I mean, and I was just
man.
Yeah. And so here I am, my creative brain coming out of like, I'm no salesman. Like I don't know this stuff. So I did what I do best, was just get creative on it. So it just naturally went into like, let me make videos and do stuff that I feel like I could do that maybe will get people to want to work with me. And it just kind of started that way. Cause I was like, I have a hard time reaching out to people, like cold calling and stuff. So let me see if I can get people to call me. And that's kind of just how it really started. My father was like, nobody's doing this. Like, I don't know if this is a great idea, and he kind of was doubting it, but he was supportive at the same time, but kind of doubting it.
Yeah. I mean, as anyone who's innovating, who's pushing the envelope, who's finding new ways to do things, you're always going to have pushback from the people that are doing it the way it's always been done. Like that
Right.
goes with the territory. Every innovator should expect that. No one's going to embrace you when you're innovating. You're making people uncomfortable. You're attempting to disrupt something. Newsflash, people don't like being disrupted at first.
Right. That's absolutely
At first. Ask the iPhone in 2007. Ask any transcendent innovation. The first people that started doing video quotes 2 or 3 years ago, everybody was like, why are you sending video quotes?
Yeah.
That's so much time. Ugh. And now it's pretty normal from people that are doing it in an innovative, forward-thinking way.
Right.
Just as an example, I'm not saying that video quoting is everything. I'm just picking a random thing there.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a quick question before we
Yeah.
proceed, because I am in this place right now with all this anxiety stuff and the mental health that I've been dealing with since November of last year. I'm really camped out at the intersection of the mental, emotional, and the physical. How our thought patterns, how our observations and our assumptions affect our behavior, the decisions that we make.
Right.
So I have to ask, when you have such a glaring shift, a very quick shift of the way that you are spending your time, the phrase, we act in ways that align with who we believe ourselves to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like that phrase comes to mind when I hear your story. So I have to ask, when we think about identity with you as an individual, with your own self-concept, your identity, how you saw yourself when you look in the mirror, as you're going about your day, doing this new thing, hanging up the drumsticks and pivoting hard in the direction of insurance, how did you feel about that? How did you deal with identity issues, with self-doubt, with maybe some form of anxiety or perhaps depression? Like, if you don't mind me asking, like, with that abrupt of a shift in your life, how did you handle that?
Man, nobody's ever asked me that. That's a great question. I struggled. I'm not going to lie. There was a lot going on at that time. I mean, it was very hard. I felt like I kind of had this like identity crisis. And when I started in the industry, I was 22, 23. So I was young. I'm doing commercial insurance from the get-go. I never did personal lines. I was purely commercial. And so I'm talking to business owners that are 50 and 60. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, it was this very hard shift. And there was a lot of days and you could ask my wife, there's a lot of days I'd come home and be like, I don't know if I could do this. I don't know. Like, this just doesn't seem like me. And, at the time I had some other family stuff going on, and it was really, the depression was real. And I had this probably good 2 or 3 years of like identity crisis, basically. And I would tell my wife, like, I was used to dressing in jeans and Converse and t-shirts all day. Now I got to put this, fancy clothes on and go out and be somebody that I'm not. And I have all these tattoos, and like, I didn't feel like that I could show them off, so I would never show them. And it was really, really tough because I was trying to fit into what I thought an insurance agent should be. And so it was just, I was forcing myself to be this person that I don't think I was. Until a little bit later on, I shared some of that struggle, because a lot of it was, I just internally battled it. I never shared it. I never talked to my in-laws about it. I just was like, well, this is just something I guess we all got to do at one point in our lives. The only thing that was keeping me going was that drive of like, I wanted, we had a pretty small place at the time, and I wanted to own our own home, and I wanted my son to have his own room. And there was things that, materialistic, as selfishly as that is, that were really driving me to like, okay, I need to make sure that we have,
which in Southern California means you need $4 million
right. Yes.
for a 1,200 square foot bungalow.
Right. And so I was like, okay,
oh man,
I got to afford rent because I can't, I don't want to depend on my in-laws. And like, I didn't have a close relationship with my parents. So it was like, I don't want to rely on them. And it was just, dude, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that was something that was a really big struggle for me. And I went off and on medications to try to like help with it. It was a huge culture change, like a huge life change. I mean, yeah, I went from doing nothing but playing drums 12 hours a day to never. And
Man,
I think there was a part of me that didn't realize it for a while there. Like I was kind of naive, because my wife's like, "Are you okay? Like you don't play at all anymore." And I was like, "I'm fine." But internally I felt like there was something missing, you know? But I was
the follow-up question, and I have to ask this, and maybe this is too personal. I try to keep
okay.
it real here. I'm just putting myself in your shoes. As like, if that was me, how would I feel? What are the things that I would struggle with? Because our freedom jumpers out there in the audience, they're all empathizing with the story. That's why I love a good story from an agent, because we all can feel and kind of put ourselves in your shoes of, whoa, what would that be like? So imagining if that were me, I would be really prone and tempted to be feeling bitterness towards my wife, towards myself for bad decisions. Hey, we didn't plan to get pregnant. I'm getting married because we got pregnant, because you're an honorable man and you married a woman that you get pregnant. It's what you do. You're an honorable man.
Right.
Unless you're like, in prison or something, and that's a whole different story. Different person, different story. But I would think like bitterness and resentment is a natural challenge when you feel a loss of a drumming career and all the hours that you spend, as much effort as you put into your craft, and you feel like that has been taken away from you. How did you overcome that negativity, those challenges that can create so much headwind and friction?
You know what? At the time, I didn't even really put, as weird as this sounds, I didn't put as much thought into it as I probably should have. I'm more one that once I get into something, I'm very obsessive. So like when I got into like gear, like I went all out. When I do something, I want to be the best at it. And so when I got into insurance, I don't know, like I put the drums down, and for a slight period of time, it was really hard. I didn't feel bitterness towards my wife because it was my decision. My wife told me at that day, when I was talking about joining the agency, she goes, it's really up to you, honey. Like I am here to support you no matter what you do. And since day one, like she dated me. I didn't even have $5 to buy her a cup of coffee on our first date. And we joke about it. She bought our first date. I couldn't drive because I had no gas money. She wasn't there for the money. She wasn't there for, like, we really had a very unique relationship. And even early on when she was like, you don't have to do insurance just because my parents are offering this. You can say no. This is between you and I, not them. And it was up to me. And I was just like, I want to provide more for her. And she's grown up in this lifestyle that she didn't feel like she needed, but I wanted to keep going. And so I don't know. I've just always had this drive to be successful, and I wanted to be successful in whatever I did. So to answer your question, I wasn't intentionally trying to like get my mindset out of it. It was like, okay, I put it down. It was hard for a little bit, but then I was just head deep into how can I be really good at insurance? And that was surrounding myself around peers that were similar age as mine in insurance. And then I kind of just engulfed myself in that. And then it just kind of like over time, it just slowly became my new thing. And it was just weird. It was like a natural, it doesn't sound like, when I say it out loud, it doesn't sound like it would be that. It would be like this culture shock that I would hate life for a while. But it really wasn't. It was weird.
Love it.
It was
I
really
love
odd.
it, man. It's providential, and it's a testament that you are probably in the right place, where you're probably doing the right thing. I'm definitely a person of faith. I don't believe that anything happens accidentally. That there's always a greater plan in place.
Absolutely.
And that God made each one of us for a specific purpose, and whether or not you acknowledge it, I think that purpose is still there. Whether or not you acknowledge Him as creator or not, like His sovereignty is everywhere. Like He is kind to those who believe in Him and those who do not believe in Him. Without getting too religious on this podcast.
No, and that's great, because I'll kind of the drumming part of it, for that period of time, I didn't play until my kids were older. So my wife kind of brought it up and said, the kids never, like my kids never knew I even played drums because I just never was around. They were never around it. So my wife was like, they don't really know who you actually are. Like they saw some videos I have on YouTube and stuff, and then we put
How old are your kids?
My son's 8, my daughter's 5.
8 years old.
So it's right around that age.
Right around that time to get the boy a drum set, huh?
And so now I have a drum set back at home, and I'm playing again, and I've been giving him lessons, and it's been really cool to see.
Wow. How cool is that? How much are you loving that?
Oh, it's great. I love it. I see him walking around, tapping himself, like hitting it on his chest and stuff, and I'm like, man. But recently that was kind of something that came back up. And again, like you were saying, I don't want to get too much into the religion side, but I've been attending a church for the longest time. My sister works at the church. She was like, hey, the worship band needs another drummer. I see you up here tapping to the songs. You know these songs. You're blah, 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 blah. And I was like, nah, I don't know. And so I tried out, and they were like, well, you're way overqualified. Like, we're not that good here. Like, you don't need to know all this stuff.
Your fills are butter.
Like, this is a little much. Like, you don't need to know that much. And so since it's been since July of last year, I've been one of the drummers at the worship team at our church. And so not only did I like bring that back now, but in like a more positive way. My kids go to a Christian school, so the songs I'm playing, they hear at school and they've been learning. And so now we kind of have this new bond of like music, and it's kind of cool.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it, man. So how did you find your flavor of insurance? To pivot to what you're doing for work. Like, the insurance business is so beautiful because there's 100 different flavors. You can do whatever you want, and it's still insurance. It's just a matter of what you like talking about, the kind of people you like dealing with. How did you find your lane to travel in?
It was a big part of my wife and my in-laws, because I was mentioning, like, I was having this hard time of feeling like I wasn't being myself, and I couldn't show my tattoos, and I couldn't be like who I truly am. And I had to be this person that, because I'm talking to these business owners that, I'm talking to the local attorney because I'm insuring his place, and I'm the CPA, and I'm trying to be this professional guy. But they were really pushing me because they saw that I wasn't being who I was. And they were like, hey, we're seeing that you're not being authentic to yourself. And so, hang on one sec, sorry. You're not being authentic to yourself. Try to be who you are, and you'll attract who you attract. Cause I was like, one day I wore a polo to work, and that was the first time anybody in my office, anybody saw me with tattoos. And they were like, what in the world? But they encouraged it. They said, do it if that's who you are. Like, and they really pushed me to kind of be, who I was. And then it just, there was a few older gentlemen that, because the agency's been around a long time, that I was helping, and they'd be like, hey, they hated it. And they saw me with tattoos, and they were like, I never want to work with you again. Yeah, but it's whatever.
Get off my lawn.
And so I just, I never really truly had like a niche. We were pretty generalists. But it was just a matter of, now just being my true self. I'm just going to talk how I talk. I'm going to do what I do. And I just gravitated towards a certain type of clientele. And a lot of it were blue collar, just because that's just kind of who I am. So it was like I was wearing jeans and a polo, and I gravitated towards contractors and mechanics and that kind of industries. And that's just how it started to,
Dude,
work.
In a different area, a different vibe, like I could very easily be the T-shirt and Jordan's insurance agent. I was like, the people that you're talking, like, those aren't my people. That's not my prospect. That's on the weekends. Yeah, I could very easily be wearing, that outfit.
Right.
The people that I'm going after, it's the old dress like the person you're calling on. Mm-hmm. Like, whoever you're calling on, be relatable. It isn't. We don't have a dress code at all at Riskwell. I mean, as you can tell by the fact that I'm wearing a T-shirt and I have shorts on right now. It's like there is no dress code. Now, granted, we're moving into our office, so that's a little bit. But the only rule we have here is be relatable. Like, Have
I
good
like
personal
that.
hygiene. Don't stink, like shower
Right.
regularly. But other than that, do whatever you need to do to relate well to your client. I don't care what that means.
Right. Yeah, no, I love that. And yeah, and there's certain times like today I had an appointment with a pretty big distributor, and so I put a dress shirt on and I can do it, but I'll roll up the sleeves a little bit to kind of show 'em, like how I am, because I'm not like a suit and tie kind of guy. But I'm this very much the same way. Dress how you dress to who your clientele is. And here in our office too, we're in the same boat. Like I have real no dress code. I'm just like, look presentable as
Yep.
long as you dress for the day. If you have no appointments that day and you're just doing paperwork or admin stuff today, hey, come in jeans and a shirt. I don't care. But if you got appointments or we got something set up, come in looking nice. Like we had our ribbon cutting at this new office. We had a big thing from the city. Everyone got a little more dressed up for that. So yeah, I mean, we're pretty open, and that's just naturally as I started to gravitate towards clients. It was just, again, I never really had like a specific niche, but it was just like, I'm going to be me and you either like it or you don't. And it's been I mean, now I'm doing it almost 10 years, but 5 years in, I started to shift that, and it just became way more natural and it became way more enjoyable because I could feel like I could just talk how I talk, wear what I wear, and attract my type of people, my type of clients, which has been great.
The concept of alignment is baked into everything you just said. And I am so obsessed with this right now. I don't know why. I'm not wearing my blue light glasses like I'm supposed to. But I was told that I'm supposed to wear them because
Okay.
I get eye fatigue. Sorry.
You're
Allison, if you're watching this, I just put my glasses on. Alignment, man. Like, it is so critical in this hard market where we have a more difficult time doing everything. Every conversation, every client, new and renewal, is more challenging than it should be. But it becomes a lot easier when we're looking for alignment, where we're not trying to convince anyone to do anything. We're just asking questions, trying to poke around, find some stuff that people are upset about, and look for alignment with people that have a pain point or a problem that aligns with the things that we're really good at solving or helping with. And everything that you just said tells me that you get alignment. So what does alignment look like for you in your daily operating, in your practices? What does it look like? What does it look like for you? I'm sorry. I made a mistake of posting a picture of you and I talking in our Microsoft Teams, and now my team is making fun of me and making me laugh while I'm recording. So thanks for that, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Oh, that's great.
I really should not have anything off of Do Not Disturb while I'm recording because my team is ruthless.
No, it's okay. My phone was going off too, so I get it.
No, but the team freaking knows when I'm recording. They're like,
yeah, let me
let's
mess
see if
with
we
them.
can get him to break.
Oh, that's
all
great.
right. Well, you got me, guys. Good job.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So alignment, what does it look like for you to do what you do with the social content, with short form video content? Mm-hmm. How are you creating alignment between the people that you want to reach and your daily activities?
What I'm finding, and I don't know if this answers the question, but I'll try. What I'm finding is the more and more I be myself and I embrace my story and I be who I am connecting on levels that I've never connected with clients in my life. I feel like before I was very surface level. I was very just buy insurance. When I talked to them, it was just all about the product and it was all about this and that. But then, like, you can see my office, like everything in my office now is like drum related or music related or something else. And it was just always, so when people come in, it's the first thing they talk about. Oh, you play drums? Oh, I have somebody that, my nephew plays drums, whatever it is. And we have this really deep connection all of a sudden. And now it's like, okay, we're going to become clients because we're on a personal level. And so on the social media side, that's just what I poured into was let me pour into who I am because people want to work with people. And I was finding in the beginning when I was posting a lot, you wouldn't relate to me as a person on some of my content because it was just, here's why you need workers' comp. Here's why you need this. Here's why you need that. But then I got deeper into just me as a person. And this is my mission. And these are my goals. And I just started to like connect to a lot more people that way. Just being open and vulnerable a little bit and saying, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is who I am. And I'm just starting to, as I do that, I'm just starting to align with the right kind of crowds and clientele and people. And I'm starting to feel like, and I don't know if you've ever had this, where you bring on a client because it was an opportunity, but then after working with them, you don't necessarily want to talk to them because they're not like a client you would love to just chat with. So every time they call, you're like, right? I had that for like 4 years. And then because of all these clients, I was like, these people like, but then now every client I've been bringing on, it's like they know me as a person because of my social media, or they found me from somewhere and they know me personally. Yep. So our conversations look way different now. We're like, Taylor, how's everything going? How's Ashton, my son? Hey, how's the church? How's the church thing going? How's the drumming going? Like, we have different conversations more as just humans than a transaction. And it's been quite a game changer, to be honest. And so I've just been kind of doubling down on that as far as like just telling more of my story and trying to be more relatable that way, you know?
No, that's really cool, man. The game of content, one, it's always changing. It's always evolving. The algorithms like a different thing every month, it feels like.
Yeah.
Oh, short form is in. Oh, now short form's out. Medium form is in. Oh, if you went longer than 7 minutes, we're going to penalize you. Oh, if you went shorter than 3 minutes, we're going to penalize you. It's like, whoa, okay. But the ability to express yourself and basically have your own little media company. And it somebody in the comment section, because I have been basically live streaming this office setup, which has been a lot of fun, but also just crazy hectic. And it's like when I get to, I sit down, I'm like, oh, I haven't posted a LinkedIn today. I need to say something of substance to engage with my audience in some way, get them thinking about something productive. And I made a commitment in October of last year to stop posting content designed for other insurance agents. I don't post anything anymore that's designed for consumption by my peers. Everything that I post is designed for consumption by my stakeholders, either someone in the local community or someone who sends us a referral or a client or future client. Yeah. And I the last 12 posts on LinkedIn have been about this stupid office. It's like, as that's literally all that's happening right now. It's my life right now.
Yeah.
But somebody in the comment section, and I think it was Andrew, which Andrew was it? Andrew, I'm blanking on your name right now. I know who you are. You're in Austin in the cybersecurity thing, and I'm blanking on your... as soon as I get off of this recording, I'm going to remember the guy's last name.
That guy.
Yeah, but he was like, so what you're saying is you run a media company and you also do insurance. And I was like, yeah, that's basically what it is. Because on the other side of this wall right here, and I don't mind sharing it openly now because by the time your episode drops, we're going to be well underway with actually doing this thing.
Nice.
We have a local podcast that is hosted on the other side of that wall right there, and it's a dedicated studio. It's like a 12 by 12 space. We have it furnished with 4 nice mics and audio and video and lights and acoustic panels, and we're doing it right. But it is a local podcast, and we're making that studio available to our stakeholders and saying, hey, come record your podcast here. If you're a client, if you're our channel partner, if you regularly send us business, you're free to use this thing once a month at no cost. And if you're not a client or a channel partner, we have just a very basic nominal fee. You can come use our podcast. I don't know what we're charging, probably like $100 or $150 or something like that. Okay. And it's a 1 hour fully produced session. We just hand you the file and you edit however you want to. I don't know exactly how the paid side of it's going to work, but I know for darn sure that we're going to have a podcast studio that is unlike anything else in our local market, and it's completely free for clients and channel partners to use. I don't know of anybody else who's doing that.
No.
I take that back.
Oh.
Eric Roberts in San Antonio at My Insurance Group. I saw him post this week that he's doing something very similar in San Antonio. So shout out to you, Eric. I don't want to say something like I just said, which is incorrect, because I saw that you're also doing something similar. Great idea, but why can't we have more of this? Why can't more people make something valuable and useful to their stakeholders that has absolutely nothing to do with insurance? For me, it's a podcast studio. For you, it may be something studio related. But for, folks out there in listener land, I would just encourage you to figure out how can you bring real value, human connection to your stakeholders without talking about an insurance policy.
Right.
How are you doing that, Taylor? Because are you involved in like nonprofits? Are you service stuff? Are you hosting events in your local community? Are you just being really intentional with local networking? How are you building human connection?
I do a lot of things. So I am in the community quite a bit. As far as like just the local chamber stuff and everything else, I'm a big part of our church. I help with a lot of the video content at our local church, which is great, along with being in the worship band. So that's always been a great, just help to the community and, obviously helping there. But for like clients and stuff, so like one thing that I do, which I don't do a lot because not a lot of people take me up on it, surprisingly. But I've done it for a few already, because my background too, as far as like, I was in music and insurance, but like my wife and I also had a photography company. We were doing weddings. We were doing all of that on the side. And then I was doing video for like music videos for bands. I was doing some other stuff there. And so what I was doing was, again, for clientele that I had, some business owners, a lot of mechanics, like I'd go into their shops and I'd film maybe for a half hour while they're all working, get up some cool clips for them, give it to them, take really cool photos for their websites, and just offer things to them after we brought them on board. I'd be like, hey, I'd look at their website and be like, hey, are you open to me coming out one day? I'm not going to charge you. This is just something I like to do to help out local businesses, is just let me take some pictures of your guys working on the cars. Let me get some stuff. And I said, you could use them. You don't have to use them. Don't feel pressured. It is what it is, but I just want to help out where I can. And that's one of the things that I'm, somewhat talented in. And so I've done it for a handful now, and I get so much good feedback. And now I get calls. It's just not even for insurance anymore. They're like, can you just help me with videos? And I'm like, okay, that's not really what I'm doing, but all right. And so I do, and I go out and I've been helping a lot of mortgage lenders. For a while there, I was making content for the local mortgage lenders that were giving us referrals. And I was like, hey, I'll come out twice a month. I would record for 2 hours at a time, give them 20 clips. Here you go, and they were growing, getting business, which in the end was giving us business, and it was working out very well. Recently, I've put that on pause just because the agency's been taking up a lot of my time, but I've really been trying to double down on that, because I think those kind of things, like you were saying, offering value outside of just, let me get you a good insurance policy, or let me make sure you have the proper coverages, or, that sort of thing. I just trying to get creative, as far as like how can I help others? And that's just where I've landed, is either, yes, I fold chairs and I stack chairs and I do that for the local town stuff. But I'm also like in the community stuff. Every event, they're like, Taylor, can you bring your camera? And I'm like, yeah, and I'll take photos for the chamber, or I'll take photos for the city event, or and it's cool. So now I've become like known as, some people know me as just a video photo guy, and some people know me as the insurance guy. I'm trying to blend the two, but yeah. So that's the stuff I'm doing.
I feel you, and it is so hard to not go too far down that road, because if I didn't have insurance, if I wasn't doing insurance, I know with absolute certainty that I would be a media and video production company owner. Like that would be my full-time thing, because I have all these ideas of stuff that I know how to do, because I've watched hundreds of hours of YouTube and stuff like this, but I also have all the right gear. Like I went out and bought a DJI Mavic 3 Pro and like just started messing around with it before I knew that you had to have FAA Part 107 to do anything commercial. Huge mistake on my part. Totally messed that up. So I bought a drone in October that I'm not allowed to fly per federal law for commercial purposes. So if any of you are like, wait, didn't he buy a really nice drone? I haven't seen anything with this drone. And I'm like, yeah, I have it. It's sitting right over here in this cabinet. I'm not legally allowed to fly it for my business because I don't have my Part 107 exam passed yet. But it's like all of these ideas that are so completely irrelevant for insurance. Like I could do them and people will be like, oh, that's cool. But it has no bearing on my insurance agency and doesn't make me any money. And in 2024 and probably most of 2025, everybody around here is asking me the "does it make us money" question when I'm doing things. It's like, if you're doing intentional charitable work,
Yeah.
or you're being intentional about giving of your time and energy for something, that's one thing. But if you're just piddling around or fiddle farting with other things that aren't making us money, you're not allowed to do that this year.
Right.
And I think you can probably feel that.
I do.
You and I feel the tinkering vibe coming through the camera. You and I are fellow tinkerers, aren't we?
100%. I go down wormholes and rabbit holes of just, man. And then I'm like, I just spent hours researching one thing that's really not even going to benefit. I'm not even going to probably buy it, but I just, and so, and now I'm just, with kind of taking over the agency, I'm in that transition process right now. It's just, I'm trying to just keep my head down, keep focused on the agency. We've transitioned quite a bit recently. And so it's just been taking up a lot of my time, but I'm still not, still doing a lot of the content, still just trying to grow that brand of just, hey, we're the 90-year-old agency, but we're also coming on the third generation. And, we're changing things up a little bit. And so I'm just trying to like rebrand us in the town, because we've been in this town forever. We just moved, but, just trying to like keep us fresh,
Yeah. And the third generation is the one where it usually fails.
Yeah.
So no pressure.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So yeah.
I mean, any family-owned business, it's always that you talk to any estate planning attorney. It's the first and second generation are usually good. It's that third generation that screws everything up because they've lost their vision. How are you going to counteract that? And this is my last question, because I promise you 40 minutes of runtime.
Sure.
How do you counteract the potential to lose the spirit of Jackson and Jackson? Because I mean, and I say this in zero disrespect.
Yeah.
Your last name's not Jackson.
Right.
You come in this from a different perspective, a different flavor. Mm-hmm. Your vision for what the company is and can be and perhaps should be is probably different than the two previous principals that came before you.
Correct.
How do you keep the soul of your company while infusing new energy and innovation?
It's challenging. I always joke when I present myself, if I'm talking, it's like, hey, I'm the president of Jackson Insurance. I'm not a Jackson, but I'm married in, it's a really great question. I struggle with it at times, because part of me wants to completely rebrand this, what I think would work. And I have to also remember where it's coming from. We started in 36, and my father-in-law's dad started it, and then it was hit. Now my father-in-law owned it for 50 something years. And now it's me. The only thing I'll say is my father and I are very close. We hang out every day. We're like best friends. It's kind of weird. Most people wouldn't think like I'm that close with my in-laws, but I very much am. And so really it's just juggling that little bit of like keeping the history. I know I'm not a Jackson. I know I come from a different area, but I've heard enough stories. I've talked to him I've been with my wife almost 13 years, and just portraying that a little bit and keeping that up a little bit and discussing some of those core values that he had and keeping those going. I always said, I respect where he's came from and keeping some of those legacies pushing forward, but also changing certain things to modernize it just in a new way. So a lot of people ask me if when I buy it, am I going to rebrand the name and everything? I don't know. I don't have that answer. I don't think so, but who knows? It's just more keeping that family feel. And my father-in-law has been pretty removed from the agency now since I got hired, basically. So like 8-9 years, he's been pretty much removed from it. So it's not like he's moving out when he steps away, which he already has. It's this huge culture shock, because he was the main producer, the main person. He wasn't. So it's just keeping some of those legacies going, keeping some of those stories going, keeping some of those core values going, but also like just bringing in a fresh new mix and trying to blend the two. I don't have all the answers. We'll see how it goes as we try things and fail as I go, but just trying to blend the two,
I love it. That is the perfect answer for where you're at right now. Yeah. And I might push back a little bit on we're probably not rebranding. I think you probably will find a new path and find some way to respect your history and where you came from.
Sure.
But find something that is more energetic and more aligned with where the market is in 2024 and beyond.
Yeah.
Something that is more ooh than Johnson & Johnson Insurance Group, or Jackson & Jackson, I should say. Sorry.
Right. No, you're
I'm
good.
thinking about Procter & Gamble now for some reason.
We get that a lot. Johnson & Johnson? No, the other J, Jackson. But no, you're right. And yeah, that may be something, but it's just, it's been a journey. And a lot of people are like, man, working with your in-laws, that must be tough. And it's not all unicorns and rainbows. Sometimes it's really hard, especially we're in this transition process. But thankfully we get along, and he's just thrilled to see where I'm taking it, and he's just mind blown every day with these ideas I throw at him. And he's like, you got a VA in this, and you got people that work in other states, and you got what the hell? Like, he just can't fathom some of these changes. But thankfully they're very open to it, and they're very welcoming to all the things that I'm doing. So yeah, it's just all just a dance. Just figuring out what's what.
Man, I really appreciate your time here, Taylor. This has been a lot of fun. What is the best way for people to connect with you if they want to reach out and chat further?
Yeah, you can reach me on Instagram, Taylor J Garcia, or reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm on both of those quite often.
Cool.
Or yeah, just reach out to me there. We can always schedule a call. I am always free, open. If anybody has any questions on content, I get a lot of questions on how to edit or whatever it is. Whatever you may have questions on, or if you want to know more, let me know. Reach out to me. I'm always available.
Are you using Descript for all of your fancy edits? Is that, or something else?
No, I just use Adobe Premiere.
Oh, cool. So you went all in on Premiere. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I film it on my camera, put it on the computer, put the captions, edit it all on Adobe, and then export it back out. It's a lot of work, but
yeah,
I do.
I'm surprised you haven't hired somebody for that yet. Just the grunt work inside the machine.
I've thought about it. I might get to that point at some point. I'm still doing it all, which is that's why I'm very just always going. My wife's like, can you just take a break for a minute and just be present? But
yeah.
But yeah, hopefully one day I'll get somebody to help me out.
Awesome. Well, man, I really appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun. And
Likewise.
He is Taylor Garcia from Jackson & Jackson, not Johnson & Johnson, but Jackson & Jackson Insurance in the Glendora area of Southern California. This has been another episode of the Agency Freedom Podcast. Make it a great day, boys and girls. We'll talk to you again real soon. Y'all take care.